Hey, good morning, Noblesville. Mayor Chris Jenson here. It is Monday morning, August the 3rd, the day before school. And welcome to another edition of Mental Health Monday. We've been talking about it all morning, but we have a lot to cover today. And I am joined once again by my great friend, somebody who's given just so much of her time to this city to have an honest conversation about our emotions and on mental health. Kristen Boice, welcome, owner of Pathways to Healing. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, Mayor Jenson. Thanks for having me. I'm really
Glad,
excited to be here today.
glad to have you. And Kristen and I were just teasing before we went on the air here that we have a lot to talk about today. I know my house is full of emotions. I imagine, Kristen, your house is full of emotions. And I imagine many households across the city of Noblesville are full of emotions here as we head into a first day of school on Tuesday. So just a few ground rules here. We're with you for the next half an hour to talk about, or even longer if we have to talk about your feelings, to answer your questions, to dive in on some hard conversations. So if you have questions, let us know. Now is the time. No questions are held back here today. Type them in the bar below here today. If you just want to say hi to and let us know that you're listening, let us know that as well. We know I've had a lot of people, Kristen, over the weekend that were making reference that they would be tuning in, that their friends and neighbors would be tuning in, that their parents and grandparents would be tuning in. So I know we have a lot of viewers here this morning to talk about this. So with that, let's get started and jump in here on an exercise that I know is going to lead this conversation. So Kristen, take it away.
So the first thing we're going to do, if you're feeling anxious, you're feeling afraid, you're feeling uncertain, you're not alone. First of all, I want to say that's a universal kind of feeling right now that everyone's having, just a little bit of fear or a lot of fear, and that's okay. What we want to do is tend to it. We don't want to ignore it. We don't want to numb it. We don't want to stuff it down. We don't want to pretend like it's not there. We need to tend to it. And this helps our children learn how to tend to their emotions and handle the ups and downs of life, to handle the uncertainties. So the first thing I teach, and I say practice this every hour, set an alarm on your phone to really nurture yourself and breathe. And this helps our nervous system calm down. So the first thing I suggest is put your feet on the floor, really feeling the earth beneath you, grounding into your feet, pressing into your feet. We're going to do what's called square breathing. So we're going to inhale for 4 through our nose. We're going to hold for 4, and we're going to release slowly out the mouth for 8. So let's do that together. We'll do 2 breaths. And then if you want to continue on your own, I welcome you to do that. As we're progressing through starting school soon, this is what I want to teach you to do very first thing. So let's do it together. Inhale through your nose. Exhale slowly out your mouth like you're cooling soup. Let's do one more. Inhale. Exhale. You're just going to kind of notice those shoulders drop on that exhale. Check in with your nervous system. Check in with your body. Again, when you're feeling anxious, pressing into those feet, and the first thing I want you to do is breathe. And you probably need 5 or 6 breaths rather than 1 or 2. So keep breathing through that fear and anxiety that's going to come up on a regular basis at the moment.
Incredible exercise that I do daily, driving down State Road 32, coming from my house into work. Every morning I'm breathing. If you see me in the car on the way home, I'm breathing. So do that. Help yourself get centered because it's so important. Let's dive in, Kristen, because I know a lot of parents are watching today. And parents, we'll touch on kids in a little bit, but I want to really hit parental emotions because if you turn on social media right now or just listen to the conversation next to you in the coffee shop, it's all about parents and emotions and how we're going to get through this, and teachers as well. We can touch on that as well, but there's a lot of parents who are unsure what tomorrow looks like. There's parents that are maybe thinking, how do we even get through this week? You start to read about other school systems who have had situations come up. How will the mask work at school? I can tell you, I got a new mask from my friends at the FOP last week. That's not a fancy ascot. That's a mask right there. So let's talk a little bit about parents, how they should approach tomorrow. If they are just at their wits' end today, let's give them some practical advice to get through today and off to a positive start tomorrow.
So the very first thing that I teach in parenting is not parenting techniques, it's parenting yourself. So I teach people to parent themselves first because you set the tone in your family. And we all have anxieties right now. We all have fears. We all have concerns, and that's okay. First of all, let's not shame yourself. Let's not judge yourself. Let's not make it wrong or bad. It's normal. We're human beings. It's what do you do to tend to that? Do you shove it down? Do you say, oh, it's not a big deal? Do you minimize? Do you deny it? The first thing I'm teaching is recognize it. Because if you don't recognize it, it will be contagious to your family. So if I don't recognize my own anxiety, I'll probably be really reactive. And now my kids are absorbing that anxiety. And so the very first thing I say, tend to yourself, notice what you're feeling, acknowledge what you're feeling. If you're afraid, if you're feeling sad. And I think we need to really acknowledge grief that's going on right now. It'd be a disservice to not say that we're not grieving, because we are. We're grieving what was. Okay, we're grieving that our kids, have to wear a mask potentially, even though that is the safest option for them. And we know that intellectually. We know that that is the healthiest option for them. We're grieving what was the normal. And we have some sadness, some maybe disgust, some anger, some fear around that. And it would be remiss if we don't talk about that, because we can't accept the as is, which is the current reality, without grieving what was. And so we're grieving that, oh, maybe sports are going to look different. Choir concerts, band concerts, all the things that we were looking forward to, speech team, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, we're grieving over the idea that we might not do those. And chances are it definitely won't look the same. And when we can say, hey, I'm sad, I feel so sad we're not doing this, then other people can go, me too, I am so sad. Because underneath anger is a lot of fear and a lot of sadness. This isn't looking the same. And when we can move through the grief, we can start accepting the reality as it is, because there's nothing we can do to change the current reality that we do need to wear masks. It is going to look different. And it's okay to have feelings about that. When we ignore it, when we deny it, when we minimize it, when we stuff it down, then it's really hard to live in our current reality. And so that would be the first thing. Let's, as parents, acknowledge the grief that we feel, that it is different, and the fear that we have that it may look completely different come December. We don't know. We're having to embrace uncertainty. We're really having to embrace uncertainty and breathe through it and say, okay, what can I do? I can wear a mask. I can wash my hands. What can't I do? I can't control what happens outside of my home. I don't have that power. I can't even control what happens in my home. We can set boundaries, of course. So the first thing is regulating yourself, nurturing yourself through it, and acknowledging what you feel. You will not be able to acknowledge your kids' feelings if you can't do it for yourself. It won't happen. So if you can't acknowledge your own feelings, you will not be able to be clear and acknowledge your kids' feelings. And it's okay for them to have all kinds of feelings. Anxiety is contagious. It travels. So if you think of walking a dog, someone at one point said it travels down the leash to a dog. Like if you're trying to do dog training, not that our kids are dogs by any means, because they're not. But what happens is anxiety is contagious, is my point. It travels. So if I'm anxious, my kids are going to absorb that completely. If I'm regulated and I'm trusting in the process each moment, even though I still might be scared, then I can be more present for their emotions. They're not here to regulate me, not their job. I'm here to regulate me. They're not here to make me feel better about what's happening. I'm here to meet them and help them feel safe and secure in what's happening. So that's kind of the game plan, is what I'm telling parents, is tend to your own emotions first. Then put your oxygen mask on yourself. Then we can tend to our children and be fully present with them and acknowledge their experience, not my experience.
So let's, if I'm a parent, that my leash, I'm just at the end of my rope. I'm about to lose my stuff. Maybe could you give them some advice for how best to lose their stuff? Maybe because we're going to do it. But maybe some tips for how to productively do it, or maybe a safe space in which to do it.
Right, because there's no such thing as a parent being regulated all the time. I
Sure.
call myself an imperfect parent because there is no sense in shaming ourselves when we do lose it. We have to take responsibility. So before I'm going to lose it, I'm going to feel this, my little brain model. I can feel it in my nervous system. Like, you've asked me 20 times for the same thing, or you're coming unglued and I'm starting to come unglued. The first thing I do is feel my feet on the floor, and I don't do this well all the time, so I don't want to paint this picture. And I try to take a deep breath, because the more reactive, because then it escalates, right? The more reactive they get, the calmer I can be, the calmer they can. Sometimes I have to walk out of the room and I say, mom needs to cool down. Mommy needs to take a few breaths. Or I might go for a quick walk if I can, if there's someone else that can help tend to the kids. My kids are old enough now, I can do that. If you've got little ones, you may have to all go on a walk. You may have to take 5 minutes, walk around the house, inside the house. You may have to go in a different room, put some calming music on to get yourself centered. So the main thing I teach is regulation. And that's being connected to my own nervous system and noticing my own reactivity, because it will happen. We're all losing it on some level. I mean, we're all losing it on some level. And if I can help really teach my kids how to manage their emotions, then I feel like that's the essence of parenting. I really do.
That's incredible advice, because again, I don't think everyone has to acknowledge that we all have our moments, myself included, and you as well, Kristen. So thank you for that. Let's transition a little bit to talk about kids, because I have school age kids, you have school age kids. We're gearing up. The backpacks are packed at home. We are ready to go. My wife is a teacher. I've talked openly about that here on this show. So she's been back for several days now. Even her job is evolving these last couple of days. So let's talk about how we talk with our kids who are a little uncertain about tomorrow. I know some kids are super excited. Some are super excited with caveats to that excitement. I'm excited, but and then some kids are just probably really anxious, really nervous about what that looks like. So how do we talk to our kids? What can we implore our kids to do to get them through that anxiety facing them tomorrow?
First, I would acknowledge the school, the administrators, the teachers. Wow, all the work that's been put in to just this school year is unbelievable, and I think they need some shout outs. So first of all, all the educators, whether you're staff, administrative, or it doesn't matter, any workers in the school system, I want to acknowledge you. So thank you, first of all, for all your work. Second of all, for the children, I am inviting everybody to talk through how you're feeling about going back to school. How are you feeling? And then you're not going to be responding like it's going to be great, because I know that for the middle school and high school, they split this by alphabet. So A through L is in one group and M through Z is in another group. And a lot of people got split up from friendships and they don't know anybody on their team and they're scared. They're like, how do I don't have anybody to eat lunch with. I don't know anybody. And so we're talking through those things. We're taking a deep breath and I'm saying, let it out. It's okay. Let it out. I'm not going, well, you'll meet people and it'll be great, because that's what I want to do. I want to make it all in a pretty bow. And when I let them process, they end up getting to, well, maybe I'll meet somebody. And then we can have that conversation. But the first part is acknowledging the feelings. We're not going to make it's going to be great first. That comes after we've processed the feelings. We don't want to minimize. We want them to be, the more they process it, the better. So the more they're getting it out. And then you have some kids that are quiet. They don't really say a whole lot. That's okay. You say, hey, if you want to talk, I'm here. It's normal. It's normal for you to feel nervous. It's normal for you to feel a little bit anxious and afraid. It's normal for you to be not uncertain about who you're going to sit with at lunch or how this is going to work. Or maybe the technology, not knowing how this is going to work with the technology. And how will they feel with that? And will they be able to do that? And the schoolwork, how is that going to work? And what I say is, it's all okay. We're going to take it 1 minute at a time. We're going to take it 1 minute at a time, because the minute we start playing the movie out for the future is the minute we're in anxiety. So I say, let's take a deep breath. And for the little ones, we're going to practice with our masks. We're going to watch the video that Noblesville schools put out on the mask wearing. And they've been practicing wearing their masks, most of us now, because it's state mandate, most kids. And so you're going to say, how do you feel about wearing the mask? What's that like for you for wearing the mask? Maybe explain the reason why we wear a mask. At this point, people kind of understand that. The kids understand that. And then we're going to role play how some of the rules are going to work with the masks, because we're trying to help them feel more comfortable in what their daily routine is. So the little ones, you want to do routine. You might drive by the school. We might do a test run of how the morning's going to look like. We're going to have things organized the night before. This is on a good day, okay? And some are required. You have to take temperatures before we go. So we got to get in a routine of, do we have the right thermometer? Do we have a process for how we're going to do the temperatures? So they can understand that this is all to keep them safe. At the end of the day, all of these procedures, all of the routines are to keep them safe. And for teenagers, this is a little different because, again, their schedules are different. They're half online, half at school. So I'm going to be talking about, how's that transition for you? How's that transition going online and then the next day or 2 days later going to school? Transitions are hard for kids, a lot of kids. And so what I'm working at is trying to help with that transition by processing what that's like emotionally. And if there's anything they need from me as a parent to help with that transition.
That's incredible, because again, I think getting back into the routine is going to be big for a lot of people tomorrow. Remember, we've been out of this routine since mid-March. So this is going to be the longest break that many have had to try to get back into these habits. I'm sure at your house, that alarm at 6:30 is just going to be just not good news at the Jenson household. Tomorrow morning, we're getting really good at sleeping in. So we're going to have to work on that. And we've been talking a lot about it. All three of my kids will be at school tomorrow morning with my wife as well. So it's a very interesting transition to your point. Let's talk briefly. One thing that I have seen the last several weeks is how do adults handle if they have some good friends, maybe neighbors, we're all in this together, but you have that neighbor that is just real negative, constantly, nagging on it and kind of bringing, it's that person on social media that posts every conspiracy theory known to mankind. And just when you're in a good spot, here comes walking down the street, neighbor X, who is just going to unload. How do we process those people? How do we have conversations with those people that are just really stuck in a bad spot? How can we help them? And then how can we help ourselves to process their knowledge?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because we're seeing it across the board. And we have to understand that a lot of that is rooted in fear. And when we understand that, then we can have a little more empathy. So I'm not going to try to fix, rescue, or save changing the person's perspective. No, because we can't. That's not my job. That will wear me out. That will wear you out. We can't do that. What I can do is acknowledge, oh yeah, it's hard. That's a great way to say, I see you. It doesn't mean I agree with you. It can just mean it's hard. This is just such a hard time. If you write that line down, this is hard and it's a hard time, I'm giving you a cheat sheet of an empathy statement. That's an empathy statement. So I can go, oh yeah, it is so hard. Yeah. And yeah, it's just super hard. And I know it's uncertain. It can be scary. That's another empathy statement. Mm-hmm. And they go, yeah. And I'm breathing the whole time, because the only thing I can do is manage my reactivity. I can't change their mind. And that's something very hard for all of us. We want to change people's minds. Well, we're not that powerful. I can only lead with empathy. And that's what I'm inviting you to do with your children, your spouse, yourself, and to your neighbor that triggers you. Because the triggers are within us, right? I mean, the triggers are within us. I can't control what they think, how they think of me, what they feel about me, what they feel about what's going on in the world. I don't know their life story. I don't know what's led them up to this point. So what I always err on is empathy. So, oh man, it is a hard time. And then I might be breathing. And then if it gets too escalated, then there might need to be a boundary and say, hey, okay, I'm sending you a prayer. I'm hoping you have a good day. And then I might we might call it a day because I can't be there for an hour or something. So there might need to be some boundaries there coupled with that. The main thing I'm teaching right now is compassion and empathy for yourself and for other people. Because underneath it's a lot of fear right now, a lot of grief. And if we can really come from that place and understand that, then we can meet people in a different way.
Well, I think that's the grace and empathy part of that is tricky right now. I know there's a lot of pressures on folks. So, but I've been trying to focus on giving grace. We've been talking about that here in the office as well, and encouragement along the way. Last group of people I want to touch on are teachers, our educators, those who are frontline, starting tomorrow morning, actually starting last Thursday, really, in the classroom. If I'm a teacher tuning in, Kristen, maybe some helpful tips during the day when things get escalated in their classroom. What kind of advice can we give them?
First, I want to acknowledge that a lot of teachers have fear, and that's totally understandable. So the first thing I want to say is it's okay for you to have fear, and it's important you're taking time to do something for yourself in that. So tending to that, so breathing through that, talking to a friend, talking to getting support, because right now it can feel lonely. For a lot of people, whether you're a teacher or not. I think that's the one thing I'm hearing so much about. We feel like we're on this island, and I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody's struggling on some level. So if they're in the classroom, and I know some teachers have expressed concern that they can't see the kids' emotions without the facial expressions of a smile or a frown. I'm like, just make that eye contact. Look at the kids with loving eyes. Look at your own kids with loving eyes. It's one of the most important pieces you can do to the nervous system is to look with such adoring eyes. So look at so sorry, our dogs are trying to get out of the room. See, this is what happens.
Mine's sleeping next to me right now.
Yeah, so making eye contact, breathing, and even saying to the student, breathe with me. Let's breathe together. Let's take a couple deep breaths. And having the whole classroom do this. I would be doing this the start of every class period with every class. So the whole class is breathing. So I would teach the square breathing from day one, class 1, hour 1, where you're all breathing. And for little ones, it might be cool, smelling the cookie, cooling the cookie, breathing, blowing up a balloon. Blowing bubbles. So each classroom is learning self-regulation. All teachers teach this at the beginning of the hour. So we're going to put our feet on the floor, whether you're virtually or you're in person, you can do this. Just like I do every time we have this Mental Health Monday, teach it so then when they get dysregulated or they're upset, we can go, okay, let's go back, feel your feet on the floor. Let's breathe together. Acknowledge the emotion that they're coming to you with. Please, it's one of the most important things. If they're sad, acknowledge that. Say, oh, I see you're sad. That makes sense. Yeah, tell me more about that. Or they're mad, which we get afraid of anger. I'm like, that's just covering up fear and grief. It's okay. So take a deep breath. You stay regulated. That helps them regulate. And see them, acknowledge them, tend to them, have empathy. So my encouragement for every teacher would be teach this every day at the beginning of every class. And they can think you're silly. And this is especially for high schoolers or middle schoolers. Who cares? You're going to do it anyways, because this will be a life skill to help them cope with all the uncertainty we have, all the fear, all the hurt, all the pain. This is a foundational principle to help them learn how to regulate and tend to their own emotions, name emotions, talk about emotions, acknowledge emotions. It'll pay. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, I love that because, again, I know there's so much uncertainty starting tomorrow, and I love your message of acknowledging those emotions. I am just as guilty of constantly saying, "Oh, you'll be fine," or "Oh, you'll meet friends," or "Oh, nothing to worry about there." I think back on just the amount of times I've said that in the past 24 hours, and it's quite a few. So we all just need to be better about acknowledging emotions and being honest with ourselves and the people that we are teaching, whether it be in a classroom or at home. But teachers, you are amazing. You are the best in the business. We entrust our kids' lives with you on a daily basis, and I'm just so honored to be surrounded by so many amazing educators in the city of Noblesville. So, with that, Kristen, let's end how we normally end, because I want to make sure folks have resources necessary. I know somebody asked in the comment section, for your contact information. So if you want to share Pathways to Healing, how to get to your site, but also what other resources are out there if people are dealing with anxiety, depression, addiction, which is very prevalent right now. Let's share some resources for folks to make sure that they can get the help that they need, whether it be with kids or themselves or whatever it may be. We want to provide those resources.
Absolutely. And do not be afraid to ask for help. I know it's scary to make that phone call, and it's worth it. You doing your own work will pay for generations to come. I promise you, it's the best thing I've done, and it's the best thing anybody can do for themselves and for their family. And what they want to do in the world. So pathways to healingcounseling.com. Phone number is 317-316-3077. There's also the Close the Chapter podcast. If you want free resources, there's like 66 episodes, all for free. And then locally, Prevail. If you're suffering from any domestic violence, emotional abuse, Prevail is the go-to here in Hamilton County, 317-776-3472. There is a crisis national text line. So if you don't want to talk to somebody, please text them. They do this. They are trained in this. The text number is 741-741, and just type connect in your text and someone will respond immediately. It's 24/7. The National Suicide Hotline, if you know somebody or you are suicidal, this is the resource for you. 1-800-273-TALK. 1-800-273-TALK. Do not be afraid to reach out. They are there to help. And I also encourage you, if you're dealing with any grief or loss for kids, Brooks Place is a wonderful resource that's also available. In addictions, we have Fairbanks Hospital near Community North. That is available for anybody struggling with addiction. And then Community North and St. Vincent Stress Center are the two 24/7 mental health capacity hospitals here locally if you need to be admitted, if you're suicidal here locally. So please know that you matter, you're important, and you're loved, and do not give up. I know this is a hard season. You may feel alone and isolated and depressed. Don't give up. You are worth it. There are resources out there to help you.
Great way to end this. You are worth it, Noblesville. Again, thank you, Kristen, for sharing your heart and your experience with us here today, and your knowledge, which is just so appreciated. Thanks for everyone tuning in today. Again, you matter. Stick with us. Reach out for help. Love on your kids. Love on yourself, and know that we are all in this together. Make sure you wear your mask. I got mine ready to go. Keep each other safe here. And that is our goal here at the city of Noblesville. I know that's teachers and administrators' goal and our school system. So we are, give a little grace. We're all doing our best here. So tune in 2 weeks from today. We'll cover some new topics. We'll be ready to check in on you here on Mental Health Monday. But in the meantime, Kristen, thanks again. And everyone have a safe and wonderful week in the city of Noblesville.
Thanks, everyone.